Welcome back. Welcome everybody back to another speaker series. And I just want to, I'm real excited about tonight. Canoe-plants move my spirit. And I cut my teeth with Uncle Harry Cunahy Mitchell in K&I in the loʻi back in 1981 when I was doing composting on Kaho'olawe. And so it goes back for me and moves my spirit to be able to ingest all these wonderful canoe crops and to have such leaders that are going to be speaking tonight on Ulu. I'm really excited. And so we have 14 chapters within HFUU. Our newest chapter is on Molokai. And we were just there a few weeks ago and really have high hopes for that chapter and that island. Right now, there's a lot of great things that are happening, regenerative agriculture here in Hawaii, but there's a lot of work to be done. And it was especially evident on Molokai with the deer eating up everything and the soils are just in deplorable shape. And so, we really need to create an agricultural system here in Hawaii that feeds the people and then feeds our farmers, to be able to have a resilient system in place to where they can have consistent production in a way that doesn't harm the aina, regenerates the aina so that the food that comes out of there is not denatured, that's nutrient rich so we can be able to feed our families and our community. So on February 23rd, I'm leaving to go to Colorado for the National Farmers Union yearly convention. And at that convention, we're going to have a speaker by the name of Dan Kittredge. If you were at our convention and you heard him speak, you'll know that what he's speaking about is the bionutrient meter. And this is a meter that he's been developing to test nutrient density. And so it's really exciting to know that as we move into the future here, there's going to be a handheld meter. There's one right now, but he calls it, and we had it at our convention and it worked really wonderful, but it's still in the developmental stages. He attributes it to an Apple II, when Apple first came out with their computer, to what an iMac is now. So, but he's going to be speaking at our national convention. And so there's really a great opportunity right now for regenerative agriculture on a national level to focus on local food systems. And so tonight you're going to hear a lot about that. So I'll turn it over to our president of the North Shore chapter, Brynn. Aloha, Brynn, and welcome.
Aloha. Thank you so much, Vince, for that introduction, and to Katie. Thank you for having these speaker series. It's been amazing to connect during this past 2 years via Zoom. And my name is Brynn Foster, and I am the president of the North Shore of Oʻahu chapter. And I'm also the founder of Voyaging Foods, where we manufacture gluten-free, tasty baked goods using Hawaiian canoe-plant flour, which is sweet potato, taro, ulu. And so I'm just so grateful for the Hawaii Farmers Union to have this platform to support other makers and farmers. And first, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge that we are on Kanaka Maoli, which is the Native Hawaiians' land we are on, and for their knowledge that's passed down about these ancestral plants that provide sustenance and connection. We have been given the blueprints for land management because of their aloha aina. So everything that we're talking about today or tonight is really in honor of them. So thank you so much for this knowledge. And thank you today also for our co-host, Tamara of Hawaii Ulu Cooperative, and Miley Komasuki of Ulu and Kalo Bakery, which you'll be able to meet them in a little while. But we really wanted to just kind of give you some information that we received from doing a Ulu Flower grant. It was a feasibility study that we came together with the Hawaii Ulu Cooperative, Hawaii Farmers Union, and Voyaging Foods came together for in the spirit of Hawaii food security and sustainability. And so the premise for this Ulu Flower initiative is that, we believe Hawaii's real food security problem emerges with staple foods. Things like alternatives to wheat and rice, complex carbohydrates and high in fiber food that should make up a large portion of people's diets in the islands. It came back to when I started Voyaging Foods, I thought my biggest hurdle was to get taro and breadfruit focused baked goods on store shelves. Everyone was saying nobody wants a taro, cookie or a breadfruit pancake. We all know that was a big fallacy because everyone wants them from a number of different companies. And so that really wasn't the issue. The issue and the real hurdle was to be able to get the starch flour as a reliable sourced ingredient on a consistent basis. And so I realized I wasn't alone. There were many other people making flours from locally grown plants and with amazing products. They were just being sold out. It's really hard to get. So what if we maximize the value-added manufacturing partnerships with makers and farmers for an interdependent relationship that created a starch flour industry for Hawaii as a whole, as a regional system? And so this premise really came to the idea of let's do a collaborative grant between the Hawaii Farmers Union with a collection of farmers in regenerative agriculture for a regional stable system. The Hawaii Ulu Cooperative and Voyaging Foods was a part for the marketing arm. And we were so grateful to be funded by the Atherton Foundation and then to be shared with our community. So we really wanted to give this information so that other companies and to create a real cottage food industry in Hawaii based on the knowledge that we were able to be given, because there's more to go around. There's a lot of plants and a lot of land in Hawaii, and we can all benefit from it. So the feasibility assessment, I'm just going to kind of read over the grant. So, maybe there's a, bell that goes off for someone else that wants to do something similar. And we focused on a feasibility assessment of infrastructure and equipment requirements to scale ulu flour production in Hawaii to viable commercial levels and to implement a pilot scale production. So we processed about 3,500 pounds of fresh breadfruit. It was converted into flour during the project period, and 2 flour specs were developed. We had a peeled and a whole fruit, which are, similar to an all-purpose and whole wheat flours. And both specifications were also made during using mature and immature fruit. And through an analysis that was conducted in partnership with the culinary students at Kapiolani Community College. We also did a consumer survey, which we're going to share in a little bit, and it was conducted via email and social media to gauge interest and knowledge of ulu flour among Hawaii residences. And we had about over 500, almost 600 individual responses that were received. So we also were able to produce 10 different ulu flower recipes that were developed by the Hawaii Ulu Cooperative and in partnership with the Chef Hui Ulu Ambassador Program. And we have those listed on both the Hawaii Ulu Cooperative website for anybody to see, and also a new website that we'll talk about later called the Canoe-plant Collective, and they're all there for anyone to see. We also have 2 free downloadable PDF guides that were created to support the expansion of ulu flour production and consumption in Hawaii. So it's a user's guide for consumers and a visual flow chart for producers so that we can really share the best practices. So no one really has to go at it, and figure out how to do this alone, especially if we're going to create a, more of a cottage food industry. Sharing these best practices is really what this grant was about. Our ulu flour consumer survey, I can put it on a share screen if I can figure out how to do this, Katie. I'm not sure if I know how. Should I share my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see if this works. So we have the survey, and like I said, we had over 600 people that were interested. And so here's the survey. We had primarily home cooks and bakers. Oh, wait, let me scroll up. Not sure if it works. Yeah, I think this is it. We had primarily home cooks and bakers, and 86 or about 85%. And then we had a smaller percentage of food product manufacturers, about 2.5%. Food service operators were about 2%. And then professional chefs and farmers were, 1.8, 1.6%. And the vast majority, 77%, stated that they'd never used ulu flour before. and 19% said they had used the product a few times, and then 3 reported regular use. So one of the top reasons why people were interested in Ulu flour were because they wanted to support local, which is 90%. The other were health benefits, which about 78%. And then the third was environmental benefits from 76%. The thing that I was really surprised about was dietary restrictions, celiac disease. I thought that would be a main one. I'm personally gluten-free, so I have to eat alternative starches. And since these are so much more anti-inflammatory, this was one of my main reasons why, but it looks like this was on the lower end. And most people wanted to purchase Ulu flour at the grocery store and farmers market. And smaller percentages were indicating online stores, CSAs, and wholesalers. But it'd be nice to kind of switch that around now that we have more, direct to consumer, and it's a lot easier to do that. So I think that number would probably be bumped up. But here's also, preferred consumer. This is where they wanted to purchase, like I just said, but the preferred consumer package sizes, what people were interested in, and how much they were willing to pay. These are all things that we want to also work on, what people are interested in. So this is good to know if you're, a cottage food maker, what size to put the package in, and how much, people would be willing to charge. And we're also going to put this out on the website as well with the Canoe-Plant Collective, and I'm sure the Hawaii Ulu Cooperative, to share this information, so that if any of you are more interested in that. And then a large number of consumers were interested in certified organic flour, 68%, and 41 were interested in gluten-free. So, it'd be interesting to see if Dan's bionutrient meter could also, get involved in this project. That would be really interesting. And just to put a little plug in, the Oʻahu North Shore will be, I think, getting one, so that we'll be able to do office hours and being able to offer people to come in and test their produce. That's what we're hoping. So yeah, I'm so excited. Just talked to Lisa last week about it. But, nearly 60% were interested in purchasing value-added products made from Ulu flour as ready-to-eat baked goods. So this is a good news for Hawaii. So if we can promote more value-added products with Ulu flour, with Hawaiian-grown starch flour, we don't need to prove anymore that no one's interested in it. And some of those early kind of, things that were told to me, that's really not true anymore. People are interested and they want it. So if anyone wants more of this information, I'm sure we could get, this for you at some point. So I think that's it for me now. I just want to introduce Tamara of the Hawaii Ulu Cooperative. I think she's going to show more about how the Ulu flour was produced, and then she can introduce all of the amazing things that she's been working in over the years.
Aloha, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for including me in this conversation. I'm Tamara Butterbaugh. I'm the Director of Sales for the Hawaii Ulu Cooperative. I started this position in July of 2021. And so Brynn was a friend of mine. I have a background in cacao industry and sustainability, sustainable business consulting, sustainable business development, waste management, that kind of thing. And my husband and I started Manoa Chocolate in 2010. So I have a background in working with a network of farms and coordinating supply chains and doing local manufacturing to create viable agricultural, agroforestry based industries here in the island. So when the opportunity to join the Ulu Cooperative team came up, I jumped on it because I think that the ancient starches, the locally grown staples here are such a wonderful opportunity and important, not only for when you talk about sustainability. I mean, we talk about natural resources, waste, water, energy, but there's also the sense of place and culture and like uniqueness that is Hawaii, that only we can grow these not only, we're not the only places that can grow, obviously kalo and ulu, but they're so culturally important and passionate about revitalizing them in modern contexts and also in ancient ways. So anyway, I joined the Ulu Co-op team so I could really help see more widespread use of ulu, of kalo in everyday cooking, everyday life products. So that's my background. And when I joined the Ulu Co-op, because of this grant that Brynn was sharing, we already had this product online. So as director of sales, I looked at all of the different things that we were selling, from our frozen staples. For those of you who maybe aren't familiar with the Hawaii Ulu Cooperative, I should probably start there. We are a cooperative business model where we're of service to our farmers who are also members. So there's over 100 members on the Big Island, and we have aggregation facilities in Kona and Hilo. So what we do is we receive the fruit, create a stable market for the farmers. So when it's time to harvest, as you guys probably all know, ulu is seasonal. So when it's time to harvest, you can go ahead and just bring it to the closest facility, get paid, and don't have to worry about marketing and post-harvest handling. And so that's where the Ulu Cooperative comes in. So our primary focus has been obviously ulu since 2016. And what we do is we peel, pre-cut, and pre-steam the crop and then get it to commercial kitchens. So we've been focusing primarily on frozen ulu. And then we did expand this year into kalo and pala'i, which is kabocha squash or pumpkin, as well as uala, so the Okinawan sweet potato. Because we're of service to our farmers, a lot of our ulu farmers are doing diverse agricultural systems. They're not just growing ulu. So during the off season, we want to make sure that we're serving our farmer members and helping them process other crops. So with that said, this grant that we partnered with Brynn and the Farmers Union on and was funded by the Atherton was that capacity development of like commercial scale ulu flour processing. And I read through the grant and was like, oh, okay, this is how we developed our product line of ulu flour. This is how we came to the process, the procedures, the price points, and now it's available online. So what I really want to do is just make myself available to the Q&A and then share the resources that came out of this grant process. And I'm happy to share that there is tons of demand for ulu flour right now. Just like Brynn said, I have people in commercial kitchens, local food manufacturers, just chomping at the bit, asking when's more flour going to be available. And since July, when I came onto the team, we haven't produced any yet. So we're having to decide how much we're going to allocate to bulk frozen versus flour. So we started production of ulu flour this year. This just in February. And so we're looking at having it available in February and March. So once this canoe collective is launched and I can help point some of the demand towards other cottage industry producers, that would be fantastic, because we also don't have it ready yet, but I'll show you all the resources for those of you who want to make it yourself, which is fantastic, or source from us or any of the other cottage makers. You can check out the results of this grant online. So what I'm going to do is share a quick link to everybody in the chat. So if you want to, you can follow along. And we'll go ahead and give everybody these resources. Hopefully this will work for you all. It's a Google Doc where I've made some quick links for everything on our website. I'll go ahead and screen share as well, if possible, if I can get permission to do that. Okay. Here we go. Let's dive in. Can you guys all see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the Ulu Cooperative website. This is, if you click on the logo to the top left, this is our home page. Much of what we have available is in the resources up at the top. If you guys go to, I think I want to start with product info with the guides that's in the Google Doc that I shared with you all. And these are the direct results of the grant. So this Ulu flower production visual flowchart was created, and we can go ahead and look at it. And this was really helpful for me as well, because I didn't exactly know how Ulu was made, Ulu flower was made. So as I mentioned, it starts with the receiving. We just do a little bit of sorting, quarter the fruit, put it in a citric acid bath. We could do peeled or whole fruit, which whole fruit provides a little bit more nutrients. So it's interesting that people are okay with the whole fruit as well. The color is a little bit different. It goes through a milling process. We have equipment for this. So I think part of the grant was getting us the equipment and testing it out. So seeing how that worked for us. What's interesting is we do a lot of, as I mentioned, there's like wet processing where we do steaming and cooking of breadfruit for our bulk frozen product. And then the Ulu flower production is more of a dry process. So, you know, looking at the where we're going to set up the next level of production is we're in that process right now. Do we want to do it in our like Kona facility or a live facility and keep it separate? We're right now, as I mentioned, we're in the process of making more flour, but there is a long drying process. So we're in the process of drying before we can get to the slicing and shredding. You know, so it tells you exactly if you wanted to take on this process yourselves at home, like the temperatures and for how long to cook. And then, yeah, we just thinly slice and shred using a commercial food processor. So I would imagine this is where Miley is more of an expert than I am, because I haven't made Ulu flour at home, but I would love to know like what that process could look like at home from this call, and in case we want to encourage others to do it. And of course, the beauty of the Ulu Cooperative is that we have all of our food safety certifications, commercial kitchen, and we're able to do things at scale because we're aggregating with a network of so many farmers. So it's really helping to get the commercial use of Ulu flour on the map. And like I mentioned, I'm happy to share, there's many local grocery stores that are already, you know, as a result of this survey, we were able to see who was interested and approach many different local retailers. So Island Naturals, for example, Down to Earth, all of these stores are ready and excited to carry Ulu flour. So it's just a matter of getting it to market. So that's the first resource. The next one I want to share with you folks is, I'll kind of scroll out here. Goes again, a good resource, product info. You have the user's guide. I think this is awesome to have because I didn't understand this at first until I learned more that, you know, it's not a one-to-one to wheat flour and other traditional flours. So just knowing how to adjust recipes and all of that information can be found here to the user's guide to Ulu flour. So this came out of the grant. It also has the nutritional fact info that was developed in partnership with KCC. I'm not going to read through it right now, but you guys can go ahead and look at that, and maybe Miley, who's a little bit more of a chef, can speak to like how to use it in recipes. But this is available for your reference. There's several recipes as well, and some tips on how to approach using Ulu flour. Oh, and we show our specifications of the different types. All right. The next thing that I want to share with you guys is, if you're not planning to make it at home, and I encourage you to do it, but if not, if you want to wait till it comes available for purchase, you guys can check out, if you go to our shop online and you go to temporarily sold out over here, you can scroll down to the 2 types of Ulu flour that we have available for sale online. 16-ounce bags and bulk in 5-pound bags. And you can go ahead and click here, notify me when I'm available. So as soon as it comes back online, you'll get pinged and you can go ahead and jump on that opportunity. I believe that is it for me, and then I'll look forward to Q&A.
Tamara, this is Vincent. Is there a projection of when it will be available again?
Yes, so we're making it now and we're looking at end of February, early March.
Thank you, dear.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tamara. I'm excited also to introduce Miley Komasuki. She's the founder of Ulu and Kalo Bakery and makes amazing products with ulu and kalo flour. And she's a chef as well as a farmer. So Miley, if you want to introduce yourself.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, it's small, kind of dark on where I'm at right now, but good evening, everyone. I'm Miley. I started Ulu and Kalo Bakery 3 years ago, and I've, definitely been inspired by Brynn. I met her maybe like 5 or 6 years ago at permaculture, and so kind of having her as an inspiration encouraged me to start my own business and center it around the Ulu and Kalo. It's all gluten-free and naturally sweetened, so no processed white sugar. Yeah, mostly vegan. So it's always evolving and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And as far as like my role here today, I think I'm just here to get you pumped up to using Ulu flour and like to get you all to be more comfortable with using it. Brynn has like taught me how to make it, and making it at home is very cool. Like after making it myself, it's been very empowering and really like being there every step of the way with harvesting it and processing it and baking it and selling it. It's like the whole shebang, but probably not that efficient, but it is what it is right now. So I guess my steps to making the flour are like once you harvest it, you have to use it within like 3 days and keep it refrigerated if you can, or else they could ripen and go really soft. And then usually for cleaning the outside, I would use Kangen water, the 2.5 acidic water. I think you can also use like bleach, or Clorox. I'm not sure what those methods are like, but there's other ways you can do it safely. And then once you sanitize the outside, slicing it, then like probably like 2 millimeters. Then you dry it in any kind like dehydrator, usually like 6 hours. I've found 6 to 8 hours at 165. You could go for a couple hours and lower it to even 115 if you wanted to, or anywhere in that range. I've kind of played around with it. I think there's so many different, or a handful of different ways to make it that it just kind of depends on, what it's telling you and what it likes, and kind of go with your gut, learn from each batch you make. And then after it's dried, I like to use 2 double layer of Ziploc bags. I just found that kind of keeps it really nice and crisp over time. And then after that, you can use like a blender or a mill, a tabletop mill, and that's that. I also wanted to talk about the canoe-plant collective that Brynn and Mele from Mamalani Body Care and myself started about a year ago. So we all use the flowers in our products, but in order to grow, we need more flowers, and it's kind of been like the bottleneck for me, especially. It's kind of hindered, like, it hinders how much you can grow at the moment due to the flower supply. So our goal with the Canoe-Plant Collective is to make the flower more available and accessible, and to support regenerative farming, farming of ulu and kalo canoe plants, and really just kind of be, we envision having workshops with how to make the flour, how to use the flour, everything surrounding ulu, even like harvesting, like, whatever people need help with, to be a resource to the community. And as far as like cooking and using the ulu flour, usually I like to go 20% to 30% of the recipe if you're replacing it with flour. Usually it's it's definitely like you want to add a little bit more liquid with it, but generally it's pretty similar if you only substitute part of the recipe. And also, like, don't be discouraged to like add X amount to your recipe. It's just start somewhere, start with what you have, and really just appreciate what you're working with, and make everything with love. I think
There's a question. Somebody says, I presume the core cut out.
I've been using the core in the flour. I have, do you have anything to say to that, Brynn?
Yeah, I think part of the grant studies is that we use the core and the peels in some of the, and they worked really well, and people liked them a lot, and it had more of a browner color, which isn't super white. So it just people, needing to get over the color of it. But, it would be nice to know from the bionutrient meter, maybe there's a lot more fiber in that version with the cores and the peels. So it's more, I think a lot of people were using it more in like a breadcrumb mixture rather than something really like soft, fluffy that would go, it's better to have something that's a little bit more mealy when you use the peels and the cores, because there's going to be a little bit more of a, chunk in it, I guess you could say. Not chunk, but for lack of a better word, chunk. But and then someone asked what a Kangen water means.
Kangen is like, I guess you'd say like a pH water changer. So it can make really alkaline water, like 11.5 pH, all the way down to acidic 2.5 pH. I think there's different systems out there, like the ozone, is there ozonator or ozone machine? Another thing I forgot I was gonna talk about was I went to the Ulu conference out in Polynesian Cultural Center a couple years ago, and like one of the main things I remember from it was they did a study on baked goods that had the ulu flower versus not having it, and it was overall preferred to have the ulu flower, like, can improve the texture, the taste. And that was like super memorable, just because there is a space for ulu flower to be in the kitchen cabinets, and especially with gluten-free baking, it's it's kind of known to be like cardboard. That's the general like, I guess idea around it, if you haven't had anything really good from our bakeries yet. But yeah, ulu flour can really add to the whole enjoyment of the baked goods. Is there anything else, Brynn, that I'm forgetting?
No, I think it's good. Someone asked if there's any online workshops currently available for Ulu flower processing. That's a good question.
Well, not at the moment. I don't think anyone's doing them. Yeah.
I think that's something with the canoe-plant collective that you know, that we're planning on doing, is having more of these workshops and showing how to do it, and you know, taking the guide and really dissecting it, because there's some people that, you know, maybe cut it in shards, and then there's some people that slice it, and so there's different thoughts on that. And I think, you know, depending on how big your dryer is and the holes and the perforated holes in your shelving, all of that comes into play. But really the water activity level is something that I think with the processing, you know, the online workshops is something like I'd personally love to get into, because I'm loving like little handheld gadgets. And we have a water activity meter that we can use in our workshop. So yeah, stay tuned for that. We'll put them on the canoe-plant collective website. I don't know if we want to share that on the share screen and just give a quick overview, but we're also looking to host, you know, to get other companies who are doing it and highlight what they're doing, because, you know, a lot of times we're all out of flour or products, and we'd love to, you know, highlight another company that's doing it and has just kind of passing the baton.
I'm going to share an upcoming, this is just related to that question. It's an upcoming event for a partner that we work with on the Big Island. There's a webinar featuring Ulu Flower coming up for Valentine's Day. So I'll invite everybody to that. It's not how to make it, but it's a fun webinar on how to cook with it, if you guys want to join in.
There's a question that says, can you use more than 30% Ulu flour as you get used to it? What do you think, Miley?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's what you can make it with however much you want, but then, you know, it's up to your taste buds and what you have available. And, you know, there's no rule that says you can't make it with 100%, but yeah, it's, you know, if it works for that recipe, then that's the main thing.
I think too, with the flour, we've known that making a mix of the flours has been really beneficial, not only for the cost benefit, because, you know, right now with the way of cost producing, we're trying to, you know, get it to be where it's more affordable. So really making it into a mix has been helpful in terms of cost and being able to utilize other flours. So even if you want to do things that aren't gluten-free, we're really focused on the gluten-free, but if you want to add in some wheat flour or some almond flour or something else, you know, that's a great way of just incorporating it. And that's really why, you know, we also started a 30 by 30 initiative, which is really talking about, you know, think of just replacing 30% of your flour with a Hawaiian grown staple, whether it's sweet potato, taro, or breadfruit, or, you know, even cassava or something, banana. And if you think of it that way, then, you know, all of your recipes will just kind of like expand from there, and you'll create all these new products and ideas and things to eat. But if we can get you know, we can stop importing so much of the wheat flour, because most breads are 100% imported. So, you know, there's so many options that we can use with bananas that are, you know, there's green banana flour now. I know Miley's tested that out as well. So 30% is what we're trying to kind of get, you know, at least try 30%. It's kind of the idea of like putting the white rice with the brown rice, and eventually you'll just like brown rice altogether.
And then this also, like, just imagining as you guys are speaking about baking and adding in more Hawaii grown staples and locally grown, you could also put the kalo and bananas and ulu directly into a recipe, even not as a flour in certain breads. Isn't that right?
Mhm.
So like, for example, it makes me think of the baker's ulu, where it's like you can mix it into the batter because it's already like really viscous and pudding like.
Yeah, like banana breads.
Right. And then Brynn, you were mentioning the AP mixes, like to start to incorporate more canoe plants into those types of blends. So the Ulu Co-op this year, we're getting ready to launch like a flour line. So there'll be an AP mix included. So I guess the Ulu flour is, from my understanding, not exactly like a one-to-one. So what is the term? Is it more starchy, gelatinous? Does it bind more than regular wheat? Maybe you could clarify that for me, Miley.
It is, yeah, starchy for sure. It takes more water, more moisture. I mean,
Okay.
even when you like eat ulu or kalo, right, it's kind of like drier to the mouth than like potato.
Right.
But
So
yeah,
we're going to get ready to launch an AP mix, so that for those who maybe aren't experienced bakers or don't feel comfortable like feeling it out, it'll just be like a one-to-one, like to a traditional flour type of a mix. But it'll have the ulu in it, obviously.
yeah, it's been I mean, I haven't baked with regular wheat flour like in a while, so it's
Yay,
like,
that's the goal.
I mean, you just kind of get used to like working with gluten-free flours, and it's a lot of trial and error when I'm making a new recipe. It's like, oh, help me eat this one, guys. Sometimes it's like that, where you know, you have to. And then also especially if it's vegan baking or cooking it, you know, it's even harder, where you have to figure out what can replace eggs. And because coconut flour, it requires a lot of eggs per cup of flour. Like you can't add, you know, you definitely need to add liquid. It's not as drying as coconut flour. So ulu flour is kind of like a nice little, it's just a nice little oomph to your recipe. But you do have to, you know, you might have to just kind of know the recipe that you're making beforehand and know how it is before you add ulu, and then you make it with a little bit of ulu flour and kind of compare the texture, the look, and really say, you know, see if it needs more liquid and what else you can add to it to make it just like before. But yeah, I find it's pretty easy to work with, and it's very versatile. Yeah.
So it sounds like the more we can bring it to market with the collective, the more people will get comfortable just playing and experimenting and kind of getting like ulu flour literate in their kitchens.
Yeah.
There's a question about, is anyone considering cassava? I know Miley works a lot with cassava.
Yeah, I think like you mean milling it, or just using it in recipes, or?
There's both. One is concerning baking, and the other one is making cassava root into flour.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good flour. I like the texture that it's kind of, it reminds me of rice flour sometimes, but not as starchy, or not as like ricey, I guess you'd say. Like the flavor is nicer than rice in my taste buds. But yeah, definitely open to, you know, making the flour and using more of it in the recipes.
What I've understood is cassava has traces of cyanide in it. So when you do it cottage level, you have to be really careful with being able to, you know, remove that. But that's all just, I haven't tried it because it kind of scared me off a little bit on that.
Yeah.
But do you have any ideas on how you use it in a recipe? Is it like 1-to-1, or what's your ratio of using cassava?
Cassava is kind of, yeah, it takes on more water too. It's not like, I mean, arrowroot and tapioca are, you know, starch, very light starches. So those ones I don't find you need to add too much, but cassava and rice flours are kind of like, I would say almost medium, like density, where you kind of want to watch how much you add to it, and the liquid too. Yeah, it's and even green banana flour sometimes on the packages. I get mine from Sustainable Boost on Kauai, but before I was buying it online, and the back says a 1-to-1 ratio, and it's not. I didn't find that was accurate. So with cassava flour, it's kind of the same boat where it's not really 1-to-1, but you know, it's probably like, I would say I would use 50% of it in a recipe. Like for the crackers I make, it's the dominant flour, and then arrowroot and ulu flour. So I definitely use more cassava than ulu in recipes.
Oh, wow.
And does it have to be cooked really well, like kalo?
I only tried making cassava flour once, and it was like, I can't I think I boiled it and then pureed it in the blender and then strained it and then dried it. It was some YouTube video I watched, but I still haven't used it because I was a little bit nervous about the cyanide, so I wanted to get it tested. But yeah, I think did that answer the question? I forgot what the question.
Yeah, Richard says you can remove the cyanide very easily by washing it in a pillowcase until the bad stuff is removed. So it's not like kalo, it doesn't have oxalic acid. Yeah, I read a lot in books, and they always say, well, the kalo has to be cooked well because of poison. Like, that's not the word to use. It's not poison.
Yeah.
Calcium oxides are not poison.
Miley, this is Vincent. Have you tried doing sourdough with ulu?
I haven't tried it yet, but I know there's a baker, I think on Big Island, that makes sourdough with a little bit of ulu, and it's regular wheat, but like gluten-free sourdough has been a little hard for me to get started with that. Because it's a whole different animal than regular wheat flour sourdough.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm about to put in the chat, I guess the Ulu Co-op, we do have a sourdough recipe with the ulu flour that you guys can try.
Great, Tamara. Yeah, thanks.
That's exciting. We should do a cookbook,
Yeah.
class, another class. I did some recipes with making wild yeast from ulu, and then used it as a starter for sourdough, and then got into that. But I think gluten-free, yeah, that's a whole nother thing, but I think it would probably be a lot easier if you started with the wild yeast with the ulu juice. And I put it up on, I think it's on my website, and just kind of went through the directions on how to do that, and with pictures, and it's fun.
Brynn, were you able to keep the starter going?
Yeah, I was able to keep the starter going, and it was really, really great. And it had this orange color. It was really pretty.
Oh, nice. How did you start it? How did you start it?
It would be really great though, probably with wheat, so I used a brown rice flour, and sometimes, I worry about how long, it takes a long time to get over on the boat or whatever. And I don't know the freshness sometimes of brown rice flour. So I just kind of felt like it wasn't as fresh. So I feel like something more fresh might have helped. And then I also add coconut kefir to the starter when I'm making sourdough, just to kind of help with that effervescent, because it needs a little bit more extra.
Cool.
Someone said Jessie said they make a lot of cassava mochi on their farm, and they usually just steam or pressure cook for 45 minutes, and then they added the recipe to it. So everybody can go to the chat and look at their YouTube for the recipe. That's really cool.
On the cassava note, a lot of our members grow cassava. And I'm also on the cacao side, noticing a lot of cacao farmers kind of experimenting with cassava between the rows of cacao. So I'm excited about cassava. The Ulu Co-op is looking into it, but it's not, launched yet. But I would love to continue down that path so that we can better serve our farmers to have more outlets for it.
That would be great. There's a question, does bunchy top virus restrict bananas as a commercially viable canoe plant? Anyone?
I'm not sure how much Hawaii exports bananas these days. Does anybody know? Seems like we're consuming what we grow here locally. There's a lot of demand for it on the islands. My experience I didn't mention in my introduction I'm also a farmer in Waimanalo based on Oʻahu. So I've been lucky to get bunchy top resistant varieties through UH collections. So I don't know how bad bunchy top is these days. Maybe some other farmers can chime in.
Yeah, when you're dealing with bananas and bungee top, you're basically dealing with soil issues. Dealing with overproducing an area. You're dealing with not growing the biology in that area, and it's kind of the same thing with Phytophthora. Even though they're airborne, it starts in the soil because the leaf, the strength of the leaves are from the microbial activity in the soil, and that will help in the microorganisms on the leaves being beneficial to thwart that kind of a thing.
Have you guys had Banana Gabe on here for the speaker series?
No, not yet.
That would be probably a great person.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a question about a branch of the Hawaii Ulu Co-op on Maui or any other islands. I'd be happy to answer that question. And it's also to bring it back to the Canoe Collective for this conversation, I want to tie in my response. The Ulu Co-op is based on Big Island, and we do have a few farmer members. We have one on Oʻahu. We have Kahumana Farms in Waianae, and we have Maui, we have Hana Ranch. So we don't have a lot of farmer members on the outer islands right now, but we are talking about expanding our cooperative model to outer islands. And so that's something that we're looking at and trying to figure out the logistics of how to do it, because we have the wonderful problem of having more demand than supply. Meanwhile, lots of interest from people growing ulu. Can I donate ulu to you? Can I sell it to you? But they're on the other islands, and we haven't figured out the logistics to either get it to our Honolulu facility or to find other processors on each island. So, to the Canoe Collective, the canoe-plant collective, back to this topic of processing and cottage industry and makers and encouraging that. I think we would be very open to finding the right partners on each island, because rather than, once we solve sort of the issue of aggregation on each island, we're going to be looking for processing partners that make sense and that, could potentially make flour on each island. Wouldn't that be cool to have that kind of partnership? So rather than shipping it to us, to our Honolulu facility, we can handle more production, but we'd much rather get it made on site where the ulu is grown. So I have some folks in mind, but we're certainly open to those kinds of conversations if there's any cottage makers that are ready to kind of like take it to the next level or looking for support getting the aggregation side of things. And kind of, I think our role, what we do really well is creating the markets and the systems to aggregate and support the farmers to be able to plug in, but we're going to still need the makers and we're going to need to rely. We don't want to be the only ones making, Ulu flour. We can support a network of makers through the cooperative as well, as opposed to being the only ones. That's not what we need to be doing. So it's kind of putting that out there. I will say Hana Ranch was a great partner. So what we happened last year is we actually had the Maui College process our frozen bulk ulu, and then I was able to help supply our customers from Maui as opposed to having to ship from Big Island to get them product. But that was focusing on the our bulk frozen steam breadfruit, which is different application than ulu flour.
Which is a wonderful service, by the way. Thank you.
Sure. And then there's another question on the project between OK Farms. That's an exciting new project that I am not the expert to speak about, but you guys should definitely follow us on Instagram and our newsletters if you don't already, to get up to speed on what's happening. Basically, my understanding is that we're working with OK Farms on a developing like an example agroforestry farm where we're growing ulu and other crops. And OK Farm, the Ulu Cooperative is going to be providing technical support on the farming side, and OK Farms is the actual farmers doing the work of farming. So it's a partnership. And then we're also we received a grant from the Elemental Accelerator program, and there's another technology that we're working with that has to do with mapping agroforestry systems. And so we're going to be utilizing that technology with the on the ground farming and providing our technical expertise. So it's a many group effort to just basically expand more farming. So we have the site, and yeah, we're working with them on that.
Well, that's great because OK Farms, we had our convention there in 2016, and we're good friends with Troy and Ala there. They're doing great work, and it's a wonderful partnership. I'm so happy to hear that's happening.
Yeah, stay tuned because I don't know if I represented enough. It's all kind of new. So yeah, definitely follow along, and I'm learning as you guys are. There's a lot going on. I definitely feel like farming is happening in Hawaii. Like it's less of a dream, as people were talking 20 years ago in college, and it's really like a vibrant, I feel. And what I'm excited about is that there's just so much market potential, just even locally. Businesses, restaurants, there's a lot of demand. So that piece where it was scary to farm and not know if you had a market, I don't think is as scary anymore. Now we need to catch up on the supply side, which is a good problem.
And manufacturing.
Yes.
There's so many trees going in the ground right now. It's really exciting to hear all the trees that are being planted. And the millionth tree that Mahi Pono put in on their farm was an ulu tree. And
yes.
So, Tiare is doing great work here to get more of the canoe crops planted in that system. And a quick story about that. I was at that ceremony, and it said, come prepared with to plant a tree, and so I brought a bag of compost. That's what you do when you plant a tree, right? And when they planted the millionth tree, it was the keikis were digging the hole, and they didn't dig it hole deep enough, and there was video cameras going and dignitaries and all that, so they couldn't really take the time to get in there, and so they kind of piled soil around the top of the ulu tree. And afterwards I went up to Tiare. I said, I need to replant this, okay? And she goes, oh yeah, absolutely, right? So I dug the hole deeper, and I put the compost in the bottom of the tree, put the ulu on top of it. So I think it's probably the 1 in a million that has compost. But at the same time, it's really great that they got so many trees in, and a lot of them are being using ulu and other local fruits that are being planted in that area. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Curious how many people here are interested in making their own flour. I don't know if anyone wants to put that in the comments. because then, you know, we have this website, Canoe-Plant Collective, and we would like to, you know, focus more on the education and workshops and getting the best practices out. So, you know, if you want to go on the website, is it, Miley, what is it again?
canoe-plantcollective.com.
We can put it in here. If you can go to that website as well, canoe-plantcollective.com, we will be putting more information, and you know, we're also actively looking for other people to join, other cottage makers. You know, like we said, we have Mama Lani Body Care. They do body care, so they're integrating pia arrowroot into their products. So anything that's, you know, not needing imports, and using more of our locally grown starches for healthier food and products. So it doesn't just have to be food, it can be really anything, but just how do we use our local starches? How do we support a manufacturing industry here, a cottage food level industry? Because, you know, old are the days that only one or two companies or corporations really monopolizes an industry. You know, so now there's more to go around, and I think that's really what the premise of you know, this webinar was, and also just to connect also and learning more about what everyone else is doing and how we can support each other. So yeah, thank you for putting all your comments. And Katie, how are we on time, and what's our next? Are we I hope I'm reading all the responses.
Yes, yes, you all are doing amazing, I would say. Keep answering questions until you don't.
Someone's making breadfruit, or making ulu flour on Kauai, breadfruitkauai.com. This would be good to know if you're interested in joining the collective. You know, we'd love to highlight what you're doing and on it as well, because the idea is, you know, one person, we can all just support each other, and you know, like the Hawaii Ulu Cooperative can't do it all, and we all have to, you know, work together for Hawaii industry and have Hawaii own this together. Are there any proposed policies or regulations that you guys would like support for you as you grow these type of industries? That's a great question. That is, wow, yes. Tamara, do you have any you want to start with?
Proposed policies or regulations what you guys would like to support as we grow these types of industries? Wow, that's pretty broad, but I feel like the recent legislation requiring like the Department of Education to start sourcing local food has been really helpful. So following just all of the legislation related to local food purchasing in the state has set like a really nice tone. So we're starting to get more interest from commercial kitchens. And then there's a lot of like independent policies that are happening just from different organizations' sustainability programs. So Kamehameha Schools has their own local purchasing goals. So does like Hawaii, HPA, Hawaii Pacific College on the Big Island, Pacific Association, that's not the college, but the high school. So those kinds of policies are really great. I'm not an expert on the regulation side of like the food safety. I'm assuming that existing, you know, food safety for Ulu Flower will suffice. So I can't speak to that. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in on policies. Just the local purchasing has been awesome, kind of setting that tone, sending people our way.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm researching more about it, but I think with Ulu, it's, you know, a lot of like what I've heard is a lot of some mainland inspectors will come and they'll think the sap is bird poop. So just having more of a localized, you know, we have a localized version than with the mainland. So that's always an interesting issue to deal with. So I think in my personal, and I think Miley might share, when fruit falls on the ground, like, how do we not have so much waste with that? I don't know how to work on that, but I think that's a major issue. We need a lot of,
Compost.
sorry?
Compost.
I mean, how do we make some of it into food, like,
Oh, I get it. Yeah, well, if it fell on the ground, then you probably want to make it into compost at that point.
unless it's at your house, you're like, it's good enough for me.
Unless it's at your house. Brynn, did you see that Dave Chun's on? And he is Senator Kahele's agricultural aide and does all the work. Representative Kahele is looking to throw his hat in the ring for governor. So he would be a great advocate and supporter of local regenerative agriculture. And so I'm excited about his taking the steps to do that.
Aloha, Dave. Thanks for being here. You're such a great supporter when we went and saw you in DC as well. So thank you for always being a big supporter of HFUU.
Well, you folks do a hell of a lot of good work. And, I wish I could show you my garden, which is not like a business production like yours, but, my garden follows the same principles of, 100% organic, regenerative, soil health and so forth. So, in my personal life for growing food and things like that, I just totally align with you all. And just so happens in my professional life, I do agriculture, and I just sent over my phone and email. So, hey, I'm in Washington, D.C. and just listening on and admiring your entrepreneurial spirit, which I love very much.
And we love your Hawaii bling, Dave, from Washington, D.C. Your
What's
Hawaii
that?
bling, your threads.
Your aloha attire.
Oh,
From
my shirt.
DC.
Okay.
In balmy DC.
I did have an opportunity to stop in December at the Ulu Cooperative over in the South Kona side. Beautiful. And hopefully either at the end of this month or the first couple of days of March, the congressman will be able to stop over. I'm working on his itinerary for South Kona, and the Ulu Cooperative is a priority to say hello and learn more about what you're doing, and the future of Ulu in Hawaii. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you. We'll definitely connect on that.
That's his hood. That's his hood too. That's where he's from, Milili'i area, and from a fishing village he was raised. So
Oh, no way.
Yeah, very humble beginnings, and he's a real deal.
Our operations manager is from Milili'i too.
Oh, wonderful. Well, they'll have a lot.
So I'm sure that'll be
Yeah,
nice for you guys to connect.
So who are you talking about?
Holokai Brown.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was anyway. He and I had met. Dana wasn't able, she was in Hilo on that day. But yeah, Holokai and 1996 Kamehameha graduate. And yeah, we had a good time and just talking story with all the other folks and checking things out. I love the machinery. God, the Skinner. Oh
Yeah.
man, it's a beautiful toy.
Machines are the best.
A shout out to Dana, Shapiro. I mean, what a rock star! What a rock star!
Big rock star, yeah.
And her and Noah, they're just doing some great stuff. So
yeah, well, Dana and I have talked a lot of times, but over the years we've talked, and even when I was in Hawaii for an ag business tour, we talked, but somehow the stars weren't aligned to say hello in person. But we're hoping very strongly the congressman. I mean, I have it on his schedule. It's just a matter of fine tuning everything to get him over. And really sit down not only with the leadership at the Ulu Cooperative tomorrow, but also to talk story with, if they're available, with those who are working the line and everything, and and then just getting a visual on where you are at today and what your potential is tomorrow if XYZ things happened. So, okay.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
I
Rest
just
of the
wanted
day.
to, sorry about that. I just wanted to note that the report that I read from was from Donna. So she's the one that prepared the report, the final report. So all this data is coming from her.
And so back to the canoe-plant collective, I was just checking out their website, and my kind of takeaway from this is, as I'm getting interest in people who want to purchase Ulu flower right now, how can I would love to go to that collective site and start to send leads in that direction if we can't fulfill it ourselves, to start just sort of knowing who's producing where. So for example, when somebody made the note about a maker on Kauai, that's super valuable. So or for example, if I'm supporting a different manufacturer creating a product using Ulu flower and we're supplying them, can we promote them on this collective website so folks can go and give them business? What would you recommend, Brynn, is the best way that we send that information out to each other?
Well, you can reach out on, like, put your email into that. I think there's a site, a page. Do you know, is it a homepage, I think, and put your email into there, and then we'll respond in the next few days on, what your interest is, and then our goal is to put everybody's specific company on under the Meet the Makers tab. And then we can also highlight, we're going to start a product page as well. We just didn't have any products yet. So the product page will have what's available, and then it will go directly to them. We're not selling it, we're not having an inventory. It'll just go direct. So that's the idea there.
I think that will be really helpful for folks.
And we also have an Instagram page, so you can connect with us there at canoe-plant collective. So Instagram or on our website. So yeah, please go there, and then we can kind of you can funnel out to everybody. And then Hawaii Farm Trails said that they're making Ulu flower and they're opening their first locations and now have space and looking to find partnerships and funding to put the equipment into scale and make available to farmers in their network, particularly on value added and packaging. So that's exactly the kind of thing that we want to do too. Is
could everybody share where they're at, where they're hailing from right now? If you type in the chat, what island or what, the mainland or whatever, it'd be really great to see where everybody's tuning in tonight.
And Miley and Tamara, where can we buy your products other than CSAs or online?
Beginning in March, you can start to look at Island Naturals. Oh, that's a great segue. So for the Ulu flower specifically in March, you can check out Island Naturals and Down to Earth. But I do want to take the opportunity with everybody online before we sign off that there's a big announcement. I'm super excited to the larger picture of getting Hawaiian staples in every home, using it in every meal to normalize use of ulu and kalo in everyday cooking. We did have a partnership with HFA, Hawaii Food Service Alliance, and you can now find our 12-ounce retail packs available at all of the longs in the state. And so this is our frozen pre-cooked ulu and kalo, pala'ai, and uwala. If you guys don't mind, I'll share screen and show you what this looks like. If you go to the Ulu Co-op website, I'll just take you guys there. And you just go to our main page, scrolling down. this is what you can find at Long's now. So we really want to see this be successful. It just launched at the end of the year, so it's getting to distribution, and it's pre-cooked, pre-peeled, ready to defrost and enjoy. So I encourage you to spread the word. And if you see it at a grocery store near you, please support it, because we want to see them continue to move. And, a quick little story. I'm a kalo farmer. I would put kalo on my family's counter. And even though they've been, here for 3-4 generations, the raw kalo would just sit there and not get used. Then I started taking the kalo, pre-cleaning, peeling, cooking, and cubing it. And then my mom all of a sudden just started putting it in stews, baking it in casseroles, and cooking with it almost every day, because she can't really eat bread anymore for dietary reasons. So what I love about this product is that it removes all the barriers of cooking with kalo and ulu. Like, you don't have to know what to do. You can just go have fun and enjoy it at home. So find it at any Longs and the commissaries.
Some amazing trails being blazed, ladies. Way to grow.
Yay.
I love it. We should do it. Eat canoe-plant challenge every day for 30 days. It's so much easier now.
Love it.
It's already pre-cooked and all of that. So maybe that's what we'll do, right, Miley? Soon. And
30 by 30. Replace your consumption 30% with canoe-plants.
Let's do it.
I have a question, if I may ask. Is it okay if I ask a question?
Yeah, Dave, go ahead.
Okay. Where do you all, and just on the Ulu side of the equation, where do you see the industry in 10 years?
May I answer?
Sure.
Well, we know that this year we just finished up Ulu season officially, and we received around 120,000 pounds of raw Ulu just on the Big Island. And we expect in the next 5 years that we'll have upwards of 1 million pounds. So that's because of all the trees that are growing in the ground now. So I think we're on steady track to process and sell a large majority of it locally, as we can expand, hotels and restaurants utilizing, and, institutions, from hospitals to cafeterias and the schools. There's a lot of consumption that can happen here locally. But I do see, especially with Ulu flour, the export potential with the gluten-free trend, and something that's, unique to Hawaii that has global potential. It's very exciting. So we can use it locally in our diets, and we can also expand into export.
A follow-up question. There are some just the work that all of you have done, at the small farmer, the small family farm level. I think some big money is looking at you all closely and saying, hey, this is potentially lucrative. And I know you folks are probably aware of some farms that are building out quite a number of ulu trees. In the coffee industry, there's challenging moments between your corporate farms or your larger farms and your 1 to 5 acre, 1 to 10 acre family farms. Is this something that might pose a problem, in the next 10, 15 years as the Ulu takes off?
I don't believe that with the model that we've created with the Ulu Cooperative, that you need to have a situation where large scale farming and small scale family farms are at odds, right? Mm-hmm. By the nature of how our system is set up, anyone, even if you have one tree, can plug into a system and benefit from the wealth of the whole industry. Mm-hmm. So that's where it becomes a more nuanced conversation over the course of the development of the industry of what price is appropriate, so that perhaps if you have large farmers come in, that could affect what we're offering the family farmers. But that's why the co-op exists, is to create a safe, healthy, stable market for all the players.
Mhm.
Without
Thank
having,
you.
in other words, the farmers don't have to compete with each other in a race to the bottom because you're providing aggregation services and marketing
Right.
services. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Well answered. I wanted to just point out to everybody that all the islands are represented tonight. Lanai, Molokai, Kauai, Oʻahu, Maui, and Hawaii Islands. So it's a wonderful forum for this. All the work that's being done on Ulu across the islands. It's an amazing opportunity for us to get the kind of food that's going to support our family's well-being. So really appreciate the work that's being done. I have a quick anecdote story to tell you. John Cadman of Pono Pies. I called him up when I was president of the Maui chapter, when we only had a few chapters of HFUU. And I said to him, John, would you do a chef's corner? Because we used to have a chef corner at our meetings, and then we would have a farmer speak. And so he said, yeah, he said he was working at Kamehameha Schools at the time. He said, what do you want me to talk about? I said, would you talk about Ulu? He said, I've been wanting to work with Ulu. So yeah, for sure. I'll dive in, So he made a dish. He did all kinds of research. 2 weeks later, it went over really well. 2 weeks later, he calls me up. He goes, it's all your fault. I go, what are you talking about? He said, I quit Kamehameha Schools and I'm going to go out on my own and start a business on Ulu. And the week after his presentation, he went to Hana and won first place in his recipe. So it's really exciting that people get so inspired around the canoe crops to become so creative. And you ladies are doing that right now. And so it's really heartening to me that you're here tonight doing this. And thank you, Brynn, for bringing it forward. I wanted to encourage everybody in the chat to type in what you want to hear about in our speaker series. What subject matter would you like to hear about? Because we have experts all over the islands. And it's really, this whole regenerative agricultural renaissance basically is built around the passions of people with their connectivity to their food supply and their connectivity to growing it. And having a revitalized aina in which to grow it in, so that nutrient density is in the food, and our children could truly be fed nutrient-rich food in the process of their growing up, and then become critical thinkers. And wow, what can possibly happen there, right? When we have a population that is empowered in that way. So, this has been really enlightening. You have a great showing of folks here tonight, and I'm really excited that where HFUU is able to hold this space and provide this for everyone.
Thank you, Vince. And I just wanted to say too, Tamara, the Hawaii Ulu Cooperative, the chocolate pudding, thank you for providing that for our Hawaii Farmers Union. It was our meeting or a convention. I can't remember which one now, but we just ate it all out and it was the best thing
Right.
ever. And I can't think of ever eating another pudding again unless it's Ulu.
It's my favorite. I was given samples to sell and I might have ate a lot of the samples. And I'm really excited. We're now going to be sourcing locally made chocolate, obviously with my background. So it's going to be that much more local now.
That's wonderful. Just wonderful.
Brynn, thank you so much for inviting me to this this evening, and Miley, thank you as well.
Thank you to everybody. And if we can share, we'll be able to share the comments, Katie, on here at all. Do you know how we can?
We can save the comments. And I don't know about sharing. Katie could look into it. And I want to give a shout out to Katie for staying awake here. She's on the East Coast.
Oh,
and
Dave,
she's our Rockstar membership communications chair. So if you hear from Katie, whether via email or whether a phone message, please know that you're talking to a rock star here. She's amazing in how she's just totally all about her job here at HFUU, just loves it, and we love her. And so thank you, Katie.
It's an honor.
Thank you, Katie. You're the best.
Thank you everyone so much. And if you have any questions or anything comes up, send me an email, hfuu@hfuu.org. Thank you all for being here. You guys are so inspiring. This is fantastic. So thanks everyone.
Become a member if you're not, everybody. it matters at the legislature and it matters at National Farmers Union. They're paying very close attention to HFUU because we were the largest, we were the fastest growing state, and when we became chartered back in 2017. And so, you know, there's a lot of good things happening on a national level around local food systems, and Hawaii is leading the way in a lot of respects. So continue to support HFUU because it matters. It really does matter.
HFU.org. Woohoo.
Right on, Katie.
Thanks, everyone. Good
Thanks,
night.
everybody.
Stay
Aloha.
positive, test negative, everybody. Aloha. Babe.
Aloha.